Acknowledgement. The Board of Directors acknowledges that the University of Waterloo is on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our organization operates on the Haldeman Tract, land promised to the Six Nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. We're going to skip the student story today for the time. Okay. Moving on to the agenda approval. Be it resolved, the board approved the meeting agenda as presented. Can I have a seconder for that? Sam? Any comments, concerns? Not seeing any. Oh, you have a question, Sam?
Sorry, can I add the experiential education amendment to the agenda? I emailed it out to everyone.
Yep, sure thing. We'll take that.
It can be consent agenda unless anyone has discussion around it. It's just adding one small stakeholder.
Okay. We'll add that under the consent agenda, and we'll take that as friendly unless anyone has any concerns. Not seeing any. Go ahead and do that. All those in favor now, or if there are any other comments with regards to the agenda? Yes, Matthew? Touched.
Oh, no, I'm in favor. Sorry.
No problem. We'll go to the question then. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and that takes it by everyone. So then moving on to the next item. So 2.1 for the consent agenda, sorry. Item 3.1, decision on raising WUSA fees by CPI in raising administrative fees. I don't see a mover on that, so I will go ahead and move this item. Can I have a seconder for this item? Alex. Okay, I'm going to pass this over to, I think, Mike, if you have some stuff to say about this.
I'm going to speed run through my 6-minute presentation. I want to explain each of the fees and just sort of go through what the new totals will be. If everybody could open up the attachment in the agenda, which sort of shows the chart. I will not show that chart. My presentation will be slightly flashier for everybody's attention, but it will be good for your view because we'll just be referencing the chart when it comes to passing. So
sorry, guys, I was running late at the bank.
It's no problem.
Okay. We will begin with the governance of fees sort of comes from section 3.06 of the bylaws. There's sort of 2 pieces to it. Effectively, anything less than or equal to CPI can be approved by board alone by a normal motion. And increases exceeding CPI, I'm sort of in the way of the language, but typically can be approved by an ordinary resolution of the members at a GM. But there's also a subclause saying, notwithstanding the above, increases due to staff salary growth and other costs to the corporation with respect to services purchased on behalf of members, including all of our big programs, so legal protection, health and dental, which will be important coming up, and the student UPass. So those are the pieces that we'll hit on. Some things are CPI, some things are higher because they're those programs. There's 3 sections of fees that I'll be talking about. So the membership fee and capital improvement, administered program fees, and student society fees is just sort of like a last sort of tack on. I'll only be discussing one sort of number for each in this presentation, which is the full-time student amount. Anybody taking less than 1.5 course units, it pays a 30% of that amount, but the calculations will just be sent over. This is just the top line number that I want to present today. So membership fees, the student life fee goes towards welcome week, events, bingo nights, most of the student run services and their operations and staffing costs. And WUSA clubs system comes out of the student life fee. It's going from $39.32 to $40.85, but then also $1.67, which was passed at the March general meeting. So the total will be $42.52. Operations fee, so it goes towards SLC facilities, governance, marketing, accounting. So anything that is not specifically in the other fees, a lot of just general office stuff. Majority, and the business insurance and liability compliance and stuff like that. So it's going to $39.85. Next, we have academic support and advocacy. So that is CAPS, which is one of the services, but specifically for academic and policy support. All of our government and UW relations work and advocating for student issues. Also the WUSA membership fee and any activity fees that go towards external political organizations that we are belonging to. And this fee is going up to $18.35 from $17.66. The last piece of the membership and capital improvement program is the capital fund itself. It's pretty basic, just a CPI increase as well. This sort of gives us a chest of money to be used on capital improvement. And there are rules around it such that we do not spend all of it in any given year. We only spend a certain portion so that it can build interest and stuff like that. So it's going up to $17.33. Next, we move on to the administered program. So GRT UPass. We're pulling these numbers from our UPass agreement, which was signed in 2020 and extends until the end of this next coming academic year, so spring 2025. That agreement has year-over-year 3% increases with a built-in option for the GRT and the region to say, we'd also like to add 2% to that because of inflationary pressures, and they've decided to do that this year. So they passed it through regional council to add that extra 2%. So it is increasing by 5%. WUSA also has overhead of 5%, splitting into a 3% admin fee to run the program and a 2% disruption reserve. So whenever there is a costly disruption, in case we needed to, such as what happened in May, we could strategize and try to find other transit options for students or refund some students. But that's what we keep that reserve for. So it is going up that 5% from $118.97 to $124.92. Some student care fees that are not changing. So the legal service, no change needed. And the Empower Me program, also no change is planned for next year. For the Empower Me program, students pay around $490 over the course of a year. The premium is slightly higher than that. And the difference is paid out of our healthy health and dental reserves. The student care health plan. So this is sort of a piece that we'll have a discussion about at the end. But inflation trends we've heard are a 15 to 20% increase of cost based on usage of the program and just inflation of services that they're seeing. This is a joint program with the GSA, and Student Care pitched various projections of what premiums might be next year. So that's why there are those three options. I've underlined two of them because those two are favorable to GSA. They've let us know that they'd prefer to go with one of those two. So when it comes time to decide what this board wants to raise it to, you could pick the third one if you would like. They reflect a 7%, 11%, and 12.5% increase in the fee total. Because we have that buffer built in, we don't necessarily need to raise it the whole projected 15 to 20%. Dental plan is much like the health plan. Also inflationary trends, 8 to 15% is estimated. They only did one projection for us with this one, so they've recommended us increase the fee to $66.74. I'll also say when you look at fees as a co-op student, you see a slightly different number than a regular fall or regular winter student. That is because you have coverage for all the terms that you're in your classes. So over the 5 years, that's about 15 terms, but you only pay the fee for 8 academic terms that you're in school. So it is not quite double. It's a 15/8 multiplication over what a 1 term would be. I can't see any hands, so if there are any questions during my presentation, somebody please pipe up, but we're getting close to the end, so we're good.
Looks like Katie has raised her hand.
Okay.
Quick question. It was just about the GRT UCAS notes. So in the notes it said limited opt-out refunds. Does that mean like we're still going around the same process, or are we changing something now that the fee increase is also happening?
No changes happening with opt-outs. It's more if students are online, but they were charged the fee, they have the option to, or not the option, they sort of go through our opt-out process and are refunded the fee.
Okay, thank you.
Last slides are just society fees. 2 societies have communicated that they have voted through their own governance processes for their fees to change, and that is NSOC and MathSoc. So they are bumping up from 1969 to 2046 for NSOC and 1647 to 1946 for MathSoc. That is it.
Yes.
Tam, go ahead.
I like the 7% increase on the healthcare fees, and I had a question. Do we advertise these fee increases anywhere? Just like as like a hey, like heads up, we're doing CPI increases. You can expect this for the next year. We
don't advertise as much as we usually post either an article or a document of what fees were increased, so that students, when they see their bill in September, they sort of have that background explanation of the pieces that were increased. So if you go to the wusa.ca/fees page right now, a brief statement on all the fees that were changed from last year to this year, which we also sent to finance as our official confirmation of those fees changing, is posted as a document that students can read.
Okay. Go ahead,
Sounds
Matthew.
good.
Oh, sorry.
No, that sounds good.
Yeah, just to follow up from Tam's point, I think if we're increasing any fees, we should be very, very clear with students that that's going to happen. Maybe that can be through like an Instagram post or something, but when I just think of the average student, I don't think they know that this is happening or how to find that information. I have a lot more questions about the health plan in specific, but I'll let other people go first. Yeah.
I will also, there is a further fee discussion happening later as part of Suzanne's report, but I will let her get to that. This is just the CPI increases.
So
Jeff,
okay.
Jeff, go ahead.
Where's the WUSA fee?
It's the exact same amount as engineering. So that's why the slide said, or not the slide, the chart said including ARC for architecture.
Okay.
So it's the same amount and it just gets transferred from us and then transferred through to WUSA.
Gotcha. Thanks. What sort of costs do we incur for the GRT pass administration?
That's a good question, Suzanne. Do you want to answer that, Suzanne?
Sure. It's an overhead fee that we start charging health, dental, and legal that helps support the infrastructure of WUSA. It's not just specifically to administer the program, but to support the org and the folks that help support answering questions and doing those things, but also like all of WUSA. So they pay sort of a portion like our commercial areas also cover off certain parts of the org. So, and auditing costs and those kinds of things.
Gotcha. Since every student that opts into, or almost every student that opts into these plans, unless they have exceptions, also pays WUSA fees, would it make sense in the future to just increase our WUSA fees and make the health plan whatever fees 100% pass through? It just seems, yeah, like probably increases a bit of transparency there.
We can. I can't. Yeah, it's just for sure we
Makes
can have
sense,
that
yeah.
conversation.
Thank
It's
you.
just a matter of where we put it and how we communicate it for sure.
Katie?
I just had a quick question, mainly for governance. Is there a reason why, like for instance, we pass certain fees at general meeting? Is there a reason why, like for instance, if we increase the health plan to pay premium, why we wouldn't take that to the general meeting and instead are trying to improve that in board? Like, is that just something that we commonly do?
I think Mike went over that a little bit, but I'll pass it back to him to maybe
Yeah.
give that explanation again.
Unfortunately, we usually do not have the next year's projected premiums from student care when it comes time to prepare the agenda in like mid to late February, because these projections are built off of the first 6 months. So that is September through February, I believe. So they have a good idea of what next year will look like. The way the health and dental plan work is, it is a premium they charge us based on their best projection of what the cost to the plan might actually be next year. So there is some inherent like risk with insurance that if the plan overshoots based on students spending much more, then that premium might, or not that premium, the cost of the plan might actually end up being higher than the premium that is projected. Does that sound about right, Suzanne?
Go
Go ahead, Tam.
Okay, I took a look at the fees page and there's nothing about how we raise fees by CPI every year. I think that's maybe, even if we don't post that on our socials, at the very least, we should be advertising that we do this. Just for transparency's sake, students should know that their fees are changing year by year. It's not something we should be, though unintentionally, maybe sneaking past them. They should be made aware that these changes are happening in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just that one note on the page.
Yeah,
But like, Mike, can I just double check? Did you have imprint on that list?
it wasn't.
Oh,
Is that-
sorry.
was
It
or
wasn't on that list. It's on the list. It wasn't in the presentation.
Okay, I just wanted to double
So
check.
yeah, the three pieces I forgot to put in the presentation. Orientation is also going up by CPI based on a budget vote that board held earlier. The student refugee program fee is not changing. That's also in the chart in the motion. And then
Thanks.
the student publications fee is going down by $1 and becoming mandatory based on that motion at the general meeting in March. Sorry, those are the three pieces.
But
Yep.
is that?
It's in the motion. It just wasn't in the presentation.
No, but is the decreased student publications fee then being increased by CPI?
I did not do that in the.
Costs going up, they're going up for them too.
Oops.
If you'd like it, we can make that change.
That's friendly to folks. I think that would make sense. If costs are going up based on CPI, they go up for them too. So.
There goes that
The
dollar.
other now the
21.
Yeah.
Jeff, you have your hand up next. Go ahead.
Oh, wait. Sorry, what did we just increase by CPI as well?
So okay. Can Matthew and Jeff put their hand down? The question on the table is if everyone is friendly to increasing the imprint fee by CPI, which would be 21 cents.
Since we did just explicitly set the fee at $5.40 at AGM, like I guess I'm not firmly opposed, but I would prefer not to.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a broken record. If we're doing that, I realized that's also the case with the events fee, because we're increasing that fee as well to reflect AGM. If we're doing it, then again, we should be letting students know this is what we did at AGM, but it looks a little different because we also have this process.
For sake of math and fairness, I made sure to increase it by CPI before adding in the $1.67 that was increased by AGM, since those are sort of the package of changes for next year rather than doing the $1.67 first and then CPI.
Maybe we should do the 620 plus the CPI and then take away the $1 from that. That works.
That would be more.
It would be more.
I have one comment about the publications fee, if it's favorable. It is the $5.40, and then part-time students pay $1.62. I maybe have in the chart there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe, yeah. Part-time students have virtually no difference in access to the student publications, so you could also have part-time students pay the same $5.40 if you so wish. Different from access to services, where we assume part-time students are not on campus enough. Student publication is sort of equally spread access for all students.
I guess they can't pick up any magazines though, or engage with imprint on campus.
If they're a part-time student, if they have 1 or 2 classes. Go ahead. Or Jack.
Do I know?
Keep that, please. Maybe it looks like she has something in chat. I don't know if the meeting opens, so I don't know if someone could.
Katie says the audio is patchy.
But she agrees with Jeff.
Okay.
Sorry, I had something else to say aside from that. I just I wonder if it's best practice to increase so many fees by CPI, only because, like, I guess you could say at other institutions and associations, they have to approve it all at their like general meetings as well. That's just a comment I have.
I think it's misaligned incentives in that way. The board is obviously taking this risk and fiduciary responsibility approach to it. If the expectation of all fees would go to AGM, there's obviously that potential of, wanting to continue have the same level of service, but not providing the net same available amount of funding as, they would continue turning down fees because that's in their best interest, but they would continue wanting to have that level of service. Dr. Matthew, you wanted to add on to that?
Yeah, from the governance end, I was just going to say a little bit of like what Rory said there, which is that this is the practice that we've had for many years, because the approach that has always been taken is that when we go out to approve a fee or a fee increase or something like that, we talk to students about what that fee is going to get them and what the outcome for that fee is going to be. And then if that fee has to keep going back for increases to keep doing the same thing, then you're not actually asking for more increases in service. So what the thought is that once students have approved a fee, they've said, yes, we think that this makes sense for you to do, we should continue to have the capacity to deliver that service as we presented it until such a time as students tell us they don't want us to do that anymore, which generally isn't the case for any we offer. Students tend to like having services. So by increasing by CPI, you take that as sort of like a simplified, on average, estimate of what the cost increase is going to be for us to purchase all the inputs to continue to deliver the services we delivered last year, because all the costs have risen on everything. versus if you don't raise fees and you don't have that. So that's why in our bylaws, there's the stipulation governance-wise about the board being able to approve CPI increases, just the same as we have it that the board can approve increases to the cost of administered programs, again, to deliver the same level of service, and increases in staff salary costs, again, just to deliver the same levels of service that we've already been promising. So that's the steady state. And if you just want to go beyond that, that's when you go to ask the general meeting. So from the governance perspective, that's a little bit of the background we've had and the reason we have that approach.
Matthew? Matthew? Matthew A?
Yeah, just a question, I guess. I heard something about part-time and student publications fee, and I thought that the student publications fee was only charged to full-time students. Is that correct?
No, with all of with many of the fees, there's a 30% value that is charged to part-time students. So
That's a part of
all the
student
membership
publications fee. Okay.
right now it's structured like that as well. Yes.
Okay.
I think the only one that isn't might be orientation, but I don't know if orientation's even charged to part-time students.
Orientation and GRT are the two that aren't charged to part-time students. Other ones are 30%, except for the health and dental one, which are charged full.
Yeah. I guess maybe at this time I'll ask, are there any changes to the chart that people want to make that we should put into friendly motion, or just to keep it moving forward?
Go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, I guess I still just don't understand necessarily the increase to the health plan fund or the health plan fee. I guess, do we have about $7.3 million or so in surplus in the health plan fund right now? And even in our last year, we had an excess of like 1.4 million or so that just got added on as more surplus. So I guess firstly, a question is, can we use the health plan fund surplus on anything except for the health plan fee, or except for student care?
Are you wanting to take that on first, Suzanne, or do you want me to?
You can try and I'll fill in the gaps. Sure.
Okay. So I think there's been a lot of conversation with Dell, who came and gave sort of the presentation at one of the previous meetings. And sort of these were the recommendations that were coming forward from him. Obviously, when it comes to, because we are completely underwriting everything, that obviously puts a lot of risk on us, and that's sort of why we want to keep a nice, healthy reserve. And so one of the reasons too is to increase the fee is like, we want to make sure that process is set in place. And when it comes to like, when we talk about parking, for example, where they're having to have this huge rate or increase in fee, it's because they haven't increased it for so long. And that's obviously a worry, is that if we don't increase it, and then all of a sudden some big catastrophe happens where there's a huge drawdown in that reserve, then we might be having to go back to students and say, hey, instead of raising it by a couple dollars this year, we're now going to have to raise it by $20 for each student in order to build that reserve back up, and also to start covering it off for the future. Go ahead, Matthew.
One piece that I might also add is that the reserve is largely there, and this goes back to when I was VPUF and managing and the health and dental plan. The reserve broadly goes back not to a structural misalignment of our fee and the premiums, but a couple of specific events, namely COVID and OHIP plus related government program refunds that were one-time events that meant that we had sort of a surge in leftover money, and then since COVID, you've slowly been getting travel claims back up, and now we're getting to places of pre-COVID times finally, and that's where we have that. This last year, I believe we ran a loss, actually, rather than on the premiums. So I assume that we dug into the surplus a little bit for that. So we're only finally getting the full travel costs back, and Waterloo as a school has particularly, actually very exceptionally high travel costs versus other schools because of co-op. In terms of the travel insurance, that stuff's very expensive if you ever have to use healthcare anywhere but where you're from. So it didn't come from that structural misalignment. And so as Roy was saying, you don't want to get into the place where you suddenly have costs getting, where you start having a structural misalignment where costs are actually much higher rather than much lower. And then you run through your surplus, burn through that, and then you need to make a very large correction. So that's why one piece, the recommendation we just had was to have a sustainable increase because you don't know what those big jumps are going to be like. We could see a much, much larger increase in travel costs again next year that could put us in a deficit again, even with these increases. In general, the recommendation that we would tend to get and the thinking that we would tend to have would be to look to use deficit spending on new initiatives or new opportunities. One of the things that is coming forward, for example, was the ask from the general meeting to look into gender affirming care coverage. We could take a look at covering that for a certain amount of time as a trial period for student satisfaction and student use and collect some of that live data and cover that off with reserve fund funds rather than by raising the fee to cover that off for the start. So you can trial it. That's generally that, well, number one, our insurance providers. I would also tend to recommend that being the way that you approach the deficits and deficit related spending rather than allowing a structural mismatch to enter between your fees and your costs.
You had your hand up for a while there, Dan. I'm not sure if you're wanting to add something.
I have a question, but I'm not necessarily sure that any of us in the room can answer it. I guess with the addition of gender affirming care, I was wondering like how much more the health plan would cost us. In which case, I think like a 7% or whatever percent increase might be justified because I assume more students will be making more claims. But I don't know if anyone in the room answered that, which is why I lowered my hand.
Yeah. We're still obviously in the start of that process. I know we've had some preliminary discussions with student care, and I know they brought forward that fee previously. So I'm not sure. Are you okay sharing that?
Yeah, sure. But it's also a separate product. It's not actually part of, would not actually be part of the current makeup of the health plan, kind of like Empower Me, where there's extra fees or separate programs. So, but yes, it's like $10.
Yeah, it'd be about $10 per student. And yeah, we are currently investigating if that is the best solution or if there are other places out there that
For gender affirming care,
yes,
$10 per student.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Go ahead, Jeff. You had your hand up.
A few questions. Would it be possible to share with the board the numbers on how much we exceed or draw down our reserves for the health plans and dental plans and whatnot each year? Is that information available anywhere, or would it take some time to prepare?
I have a lot of it pulled up on my
That
screen.
Matthew
I don't know
mentioned earlier.
if we're allowed to send that in chat or not.
Oh, hello? Okay.
Probably
Is my mic-
not.
Your mic is on. We heard you.
Your mic is on, Jeff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, half the time I'm not too sure because the pop-up's not coming up. Yeah, sorry. I was wondering if we can get the actuals around what those variances actually look like for the different plans that Matthew just mentioned.
I think Matthew A just said he had them up in front of him. I'm not sure.
Oh, my bad. I'm so sorry. Crossed the wires there.
Variances or surpluses?
Like Matthew just mentioned, we went negative for the first time. I'm not sure if those
Yes.
numbers can be
Okay,
available.
yeah, we just received those numbers, which is, and I'm trying to think of when they'll be reflected in this current year's audited statements. It's around $200,000.
We've been probably running at a decent overage for the past couple of years, mainly as Matthew had pointed out due to COVID and U Plus, and now that we're getting back into that regular times, we are starting to see those declines. Total surplus is 7 million around there. So that's
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Katie.
May I request that possibly like these like financial statements or information be shared in our like personal board chat? I just feel less informed on like what we're talking about, and I would like to see the numbers myself.
We have that data.
I didn't hear all of what you said. I'm not sure what you said.
She's asking for.
Oh.
Can you mute yourself, Katie?
Let me.
I think she's asking for the data if it's available to be shared in the board chat because she's wanting to take a look at it, is what I got from that audio. I'm not sure if it is available in a shareable format.
I guess at this
moment.
point, it's just for future decisions.
For future decisions, I think you could maybe come back with that information. I don't think that we have it right in front of us available. Like, I think we have individual numbers. But I
Yeah,
don't think we have,
just like
specific.
request to bring it to a future
Yeah.
board meeting.
Yep, that can be done. Matthew?
Yeah, I guess for that 200,000 or so loss, I guess the numbers that I've been referring to came from the audit this year, which obviously ended in April 2023 or so. And I guess from looking at that, it looks like the health plan's in like an incredibly healthy position with a massive revenue over expenses and the $7 million surplus. But I guess it would be very helpful to see the numbers from this year in order to make an informed decision on this fee.
Good thing. Sam? And then Mike?
I won't formally call the question, but it's already like 7:20. I'm wondering if maybe we should get back to the original item and move on in the agenda. Maybe these are some notes for the returning board members to take into the next year.
So we will have to pick fees today, obviously, just to get them for that deadline. So I guess the sort of questions on the table will be around the health and dental fee, which of those three options we're wanting to go with. And then the other question sort of, there's been a little discussion on is the UW student publications fee around the CPI question there. Go ahead, Jeff.
This is a question to Matthew A. Are you saying that you would prefer to see the actuals for this year before deciding on the health plan increases? Then a question to Suzanne, what is, like, when do we need to finalize these increases for the Board of Governors meeting?
You need them by the end of this month.
What happened? Okay, yeah.
So we're like, unless we're going to call a special meeting the 29th or the 30th, I think it.
And I won't be able to have that information for you by the 30th. Sorry, but.
We even have
What
the
numbers
full-
was
Sorry, Scott, I didn't get that question. We can't hear you if you're talking, Jeff. I'm not sure.
I think there's some technical issues on my end. Never mind.
Okay.
I don't know if it helps inform, but the numbers in the presentation around like the inflationary trends are sort of the clues as to like how much they expect the plan to go up. And if those numbers are around 15 to 20%, raising it by around 7 is probably like a best case scenario for students. It was sort of like the most liberal option presented, and then obviously the highest number is the most conservative.
Well, of the numbers presented, 7.4, 11.3, 12.6. Is that the right thing? We should probably do 7.4.
Okay. Are you willing to motion that as the official selection then?
Yes, I motion 7.4%.
I will second that. Are there any questions, concerns, comments with regards to amending the current presented fee structure so that the one selected for the health and dental fee is the 7.4% increase?
I guess at what point did student care present us with these recommendations and projections? My question, the motivation behind my question is just because some of the discussions we've had this year have, like the expectations that have been set at this table were that we'd look at potentially freezing the increases on the health plan. And I understand that I guess the experts at student care have come to us now with this information, but just wondering like where that happened, that shift, and if in the future we can potentially run ahead of those expectations.
I think the presentation that you received was I think it's last week or the week before. So it certainly was recent, Jeff. And I think certainly noting this conversation, it might also be advantageous for us to have Dal as part of the conversation to be able to answer some of these more in-depth questions. And so we apologize for not having that, but that might also be helpful in future.
Also, the fees have been frozen since COVID. I don't think we raised them in the last 3 years for health and dental plans. So that sort of shows the healthy position we've been in, and this is sort of just a maintenance upgrade.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I know what I'm voting for. Is Alex's motion just for the 7.4% on healthcare, or is it for all the CPI increases and the healthcare?
It's the amendment on the floor is just for the health and dental, selecting it as the 7.4%. And then we'll
It's an amendment to the amendment. Or amendment to the motion.
Amendment to the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Matthew?
Yeah, I guess just to follow up to Jeff's point, I was also kind of under the impression that the health plan fee would not end up being increased this year. So I think there's a couple things that could be done in the future. Maybe one, to have a student care, maybe a cost estimate increase, push back to January, February, March, or something that gives a bit more time for us to kind of reflect on how that might impact our fees. And I think I'll still be voting against this just because I don't think I can make an informed decision based on numbers that are recent. And I'm looking at numbers from 2022, 2023. And in my opinion, it looks very healthy and low risk, but that's my take. And it would be nice if we had more of a attendance to talk about this than 6 people, but it is what it is.
Nice.
I just have to note, Matthew, that it would be difficult to get that information to you folks much earlier because the plan goes to December, and for them to get all that information together and figure out what that estimate and make their recommendation. I mean, we could probably try and get it a couple of weeks earlier, but like January, February would sort of be tough, but we can ask for it earlier for sure.
Okay, yeah, I know it's not obviously super easy, but it would be nice in the future to have some more flexibility around that.
Okay. Not seeing any points, then we're going to go to the question for this one. So all those in favor of Alex's amendment, please raise your hand.
Tough crowd.
We're just voting on the amendment now, correct?
Just the amendment, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you and and okay. So you guys are all in favor of the amendment. Okay.
Yes.
All those opposed?
Just
Okay.
to be clear, the previous motion was like that we had 3 options, and the current amendment says we want 7%, or the vote will be on 7%, correct?
Yes, that was the amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so the amendment passed. So the motion would now read decrease by 7.4%. So it'll be those lowest of the 3 numbers presented. Okay. Next one.
And this is the vote that lets us decide yes or no, correct?
Yes, that's coming up. Just first, if people have any, if there's any appetite out there when it comes to the publication fee. I know that was another thing that was brought up on whether that should also be increased by CPI, given that the other fees are also going to be increased by CPI. Not seeing any hands. I don't know if that's.
I would prefer not to increase the publications fee by CPI.
Okay. not seeing anything then we'll go ahead with the 540. Oh, Matthew, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just the same thing as Jeff. I would prefer not to increase it just because I feel like what we communicated with students at AGM was that this fee would be, we kind of told them there would be this plus, it would be, I don't know what it was, 520 or something. And I think that's what people were under the impression it would be for 2024, 2025. So that's my take.
Not to go in circles, but just quick follow up to that. I think if there was to be any CPI adjustment, we can consider that part of the reduction as part of the move to a compulsory fee.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then we'll go back to the original motion, now amended. There's no last minute questions, and we'll go ahead and call the question. So all those as now approving the fees as presented. Sorry, Jeff.
I'm so sorry. Matthew A, did you want to split the question with regards to the health and dental plan?
If we could have it amended to be 2 separate motions, I think that could be a good idea, given that there's a lot of different opinions. I don't know if we can do that.
I don't know.
Point
Mike.
of order.
Yeah.
CPI is already its own motion. And then the program fees is its own separate motion already, the way that I prepared it in that notice of motion document. It is its own be it resolved statement. And then I put the society fees with the program fees, but you can also split those two up if you want to do it in 3 completely separate parts.
Katie?
I would like to motion to amend the current motions to be split into 3.
Okay, so do we go with the first?
Let's split 1 into 3.
I'm trying to think. Right, okay, recognizing the fact that probably the first motion should have been put on the floor first and discussed first, then we probably shouldn't have amended the second motion. But we're going to go back to the first motion and we're going to do that one. And then after which, if you guys are wanting to split the second fee, we can go ahead and do that. So starting with the first motion, which is just in regards to the CPI increases, we're going to put that one on the table. Can I have a seconder for that one? Alex? So this is just relating to the CPI increases. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Sam.
Sorry, was Jeff's amendment to not increase publications by CPI friendly? Or do we need to do a separate motion for that?
It wasn't an amendment. It was not being friendly to an amendment.
Yeah, that is it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not increased. So it is still what is presented. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I can put the motion in the chat now if you'd like.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay. I think that's everyone, but just to be sure, all those opposed. Seeing any? Okay, so then we'll move to the next motion. So these motions are bundled, the UPass, health and dental, and the societies, but that can be split apart or amended down or up, depending on how people are feeling.
This is the premium at 7.4%.
Yes, 7.4% is what has now been selected of the options presented to us.
And we give student care that money.
So the premium, no, the premium is sort of, because remember when Del came and gave his presentation, the health plan is self-insured, right? So that's where students, they get hurt when they're traveling and stuff like that, they submit up to us the receipts and we pay for those. And student care, they administer that. And for administrating, we pay them a small administration fee. Whereas the dental plan is completely insured. So we pay them however much. It's all insured by someone else. And they cover all the expenses. If it's down or up over the years, it doesn't matter. So I guess when it comes to the dental fee in particular, I guess yes, in terms of like money that goes to
Fully insured.
yeah. So that means that the additional 7% increase will be going to student care to cover off the increase in premium.
Will be going to the insurance company, yes.
Okay.
Where the 7% for the health plan.
It's not an administration fee.
No.
That's what I'm just, okay, great.
And so that's where, with the health plan losing $200,000 this year, and the increase in travel, right, that could be much higher this year in theory, right? Because we don't know what it could, because we are self-insuring that. Students can come forward with more receipts. There could be more, accidents. The aviation club could have a situation, and then the amount of money we're having to pay out is much greater.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what's on the floor. So I will. Second. Alex. So. Other questions or comments with regards to now on the floor, which is the second motion, which includes the health fee in addition to societies and the UMass.
Rory, I sent you a draft. Am I good to post that version in the chat?
Okay.
Take a quick look.
There it is in the chat. You guys can read it there.
Is it too late to split these motions apart? We're not in a vote yet, right?
Nope, we're not in a vote. If you're wanting to split it into health, dental, like, are you wanting to split it 3 ways?
Yeah, no, I would motion to amend splitting the health pass and the GRT and dental pass into 2 separate motions if possible.
Sure. Can I have a second for that amendment? 80. Comments, questions with regards to that? Suzanne, of the 7 million, that will all be the health plan, not the dental plan, correct? So if we don't increase the dental plan, what does that mean for students? Because if that's all going to insurance and we're not increasing it, does that mean we're going to have to increase the funding coming from somewhere else?
Might be abusing a POI here, but
Maybe.
I don't believe the dental plan is the object of discussion here. It's the health plan.
But he's wanting to split it into, he's wanting to keep the health and dental plan as one.
No, he said health plan and then dental and GRT.
Oh, so my apologies. So you're wanting health plan as one and GRT and dental as the other. Is that correct, Matthew?
Yeah, that's correct. I think that does make sense, right? The health and dental are still separate in a way that our health is self-insured.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, are there any other comments?
Sorry for the miscommunication.
No, that was my misunderstanding. Okay. So I'm not seeing any comments, so we'll go right to calling the question. All those in favor of splitting it up, please raise your hand. Okay. And all those opposed? Okay. So I guess it is now split up. So let's cover, I guess we can start with the health one first. So right now it's on the floor with an increase of that 7.4%. We can make that motion. Is there a seconder for that? Matthew? Comments, questions, concerns?
Yes, one question, one concern. If we don't approve anything, what happens?
If we don't improve anything, then there will be no increase, I believe. That is my understanding.
Like that's fine.
Matthew A.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to make sure if this motion is rejected, there is no increase to the health plan fee.
I believe so, unless looking at my governance people. That's my understanding. So, okay. Any last minute comments, concerns? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we'll go right
Sorry,
to the vote. Oh, no, sorry, go ahead. Jeff.
Sorry, jumping in real quick. This is negotiated with the GSA.
It is.
So
Yeah.
how does that affect it if we do not approve an increase, but they want to?
We charge different fees, so they would have their fee be higher than ours.
Do we share the same reserve? Do we have separate reserves? Correct. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I guess one final idea to Matthew A. Then at least. I don't know if this is going too far, but there's at least the official CPI for 2023, rather than a complete rejection.
Are you amending the motion? Are you amending the motion then, or are we in discussion?
Nope, just
Still
a
in-
discussion.
We're still in discussion, I think. Unless Jeff is wanting to make a formal amendment.
I do not. I don't wish to. All I want is to have all the information with expert opinion.
Okay. Okay. I'm getting the sense in the room of vote it down, and I would be more comfortable if it takes going just to CPI to get something passed. I would much rather do that than do a big old 0-0 burger. Would just be my feeling, because you don't want to get in that place that we talked about earlier, where you're having to do a massive increase next year because there was nothing this year, and then all of a sudden students are like, "Hey, you did none last year, and now you're doing 8%, right?" Like, or like parking services, right? And so keeping that stability, if we are going to be doing increases, I think is also very important when we talk about these fee discussions. Matthew?
I think Jeff has his hand up first in
I'm
line.
sorry. I thought that was the legacy hand. Go ahead, Jeff. We can't hear you, Jeff. If you're talking.
Sorry, I'm not. That was a ghost hand.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I guess I'm still kind of on the 0% side, just because if we did have a $200,000 like excess of revenue or excess of expenses over revenue, and we do have $7.1 or so million, if we, per se, if there were 20% increase in the costs, I think the costs were around $6 million. Maybe Suzanne could confirm that number last year. Somewhere between $6 and $7 million, right?
That's what it said, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, suppose that we did have a 20% increase in expenses, which is on kind of the far end. If the surplus can only be used for the health plan, then it's not such a big deal if the surplus goes down by whatever 20% of that would be, just considering that the surplus is meant for that.
The 20% would be $1.4 million decrease in the surplus, which is about 1/4, I think, 25%. Yeah.
I'll formally. Sorry?
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I shouldn't have said anything.
No
Sorry,
worries.
go ahead, Jeff.
I'll formally motion to amend I guess it's motion to a CPI increase of 3.9%. at least in a holding pattern.
I-
The motivation of not having future large increases. We may need a larger increase next year to make up for this, but we'll hopefully be able to do that with more information ahead of time.
Can we take that?
Are people willing to take that as friendly? Alex just asked.
Yeah.
Matthew, are you okay taking that as friendly? Okay. So then,
Yeah, I think that's a good middle ground overall.
okay. Good. So it is now amended to be CPI. I'm not sure.
Katie's asking for the motion in chat.
Yeah, I think
I'm
we're
going to
just-
do some quick math for Rory.
3.9%.
Rory, I'll copy and paste it to you.
That works for me.
Matthew, go ahead.
I guess just another question out of curiosity. Do we usually get the student care projections, or have we gotten them in the past, and how accurate have they been in general? I mean, I suppose they're experts. It should be very accurate, but it would be nice. It would be cool to know, I guess, in the past how the change in expenses has gone on.
I don't know if we have any of that, so we might have to look back and sort of see. Obviously, with insurance, despite how good experts can be at times, there can be massive variances. But without having that data, I know it can be difficult, I guess. So we'll probably see if we can get something like that for a future board meeting. Okay. I'm going to put the motion in chat. This is the amended motion. Are there any last minute comments or questions with regards to this?
Is this an amendment to the motion, or this is the final
It's
motion?
the final motion. It has already been.
Wait, Rory, sorry, I did math wrong.
Uh-oh.
That is the CPI increase to the already increased amount.
Okay.
What do I don't know.
We'll give Mike one more second.
I promise I have an economics degree.
Okay. Edit the original. It says the correct amount. Okay. Any last minute questions or comments with regards to this?
Just a final quick comment. Apologies, I know this has been drawn out, but I guess some of my motivations for supporting this is that we do have healthy reserves. I'd rather make a decision with all the information ahead of us, especially with discussions that are taking place during the year. It's not at all a reflection of those discussions that we had during the year. It's more, hopefully this will give us maybe some ammunition sort of to request that student care, even if they're not able to give us like concrete numbers, at least communicate with us a little bit earlier in the year based on projections or whatnot on when it comes to future decisions like this. Thanks.
Okay. Sounds good. Not seeing any other last minute comments. We'll go right to the question. All those in favor of the question as presented in the chat. Now amended. Please raise your hand. Okay. Thank you. I think that's everyone, but just to be sure, any opposed? Are you opposed, Ahmed, or is your hand just still up? Okay. Okay, so then the second part of that motion, which was for the DRT and the dental plan, and then also I think part of that original motion is also the society's fund as a be it further resolved. So we will add that Back in, can we, Mike? Okay.
I
Well,
can
that-
copy. I'll copy and paste it to you.
Okay, Mike's gonna send it to me. I'm going to move it. I have a seconder for that. Alex? Any other discussion with regards to this? Okay, Katie says she has to go. Thank you for joining us and getting us past quorum. No one else is allowed to leave now. Okay, you're all stuck here. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so then we're gonna go call the question, I guess. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. All those opposed? Cam, you're opposed?
No, sorry, my hand was just lagging. I was in support.
With those that we passed, Mike, does that cover completely the societies, or do you think it's best to make that a motion now?
I can't recall. I think we did do a three-way split at some point, right? So just.
Yep.
I realized. Yeah. Okay. I will paste the societies piece in here as the third. Well, now the fourth part.
I'll motion it. Is there a seconder for that? Alex? Are there any comments with regards to any of these societies ones? I don't believe there are likely to be. Not seeing any. We'll go right to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's everyone. Just be sure. Any opposed? Any? Okay. So those are all that done. So then I think that brings us to item 4, which is the unfinished business, which are the 3 stances. Passed over to Tham because she has her hand up. Go ahead.
I was supposed to be the one to move those. I'm not sure why Katie's name is there. I think Katie and I are withdrawing the international paper though.
Okay.
So it's just the other 2 up for consideration.
Sounds good. So then we'll start with the first one there, the gender-based and sexual violence stance. Can I have a second for that item? Alex? Okay, any comments, questions with regards to this item? I'm not seeing any. Deb, remind me, were these passed by the committee or the?
Yes, these all made it past committee. There was, at least for the international paper, some concerns were brought up afterwards, which is why it's being withdrawn.
Okay, sounds good. Wanted to check to know what speed I can go at. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. And any opposed? Any? So skip past 4.3 and go to 4.4, which is the student mental health stance. Can I have a seconder for that? Alex? I'm assuming, again, no discussion, so we'll go right to voting unless someone puts their hand up right now. Not seeing any, so all those in favor, please raise your hand. And I think that's everybody, but just to be sure, any opposed? Not seeing any. Okay, so that brings us to our reports. So I sent my report out in an email sort of after the fact. It is a little bit longer just based on sort of the timing of the meetings. But if there are any questions with regards to that report there, yeah, go ahead, Tham.
I have 2 questions. One, what was in your meeting with Vivek and Nick, what was Vivek's concerns around Well, you mentioned that you thought that this would help the international student cap would help with the housing issues around here, and Vivek and Nick disagreed. What were their reasons for that?
I think I think the two things that they sort of felt might not have as direct impact were just the fact that Conestoga has many satellite campuses, throughout Ontario, and so though there are big campuses, obviously here in Waterloo, that potentially would be more spread out in that regard, and then also just generally the fact that the real estate market is sometimes slow to accommodate to changes in demand, and so that potentially would just take a little bit longer for it to show effects. Like it wouldn't be like tomorrow rent prices are dramatically cheaper. Was sort of that was more of their opinion, I'd say.
Okay, and then my other question was around the night transit meeting. To be clear, I am completely in support of it. I think it's a super great idea. Hope it works out. But like, why was that not communicated with board earlier? Because I remember I sent that to the board chat before, didn't hear anything about it. And I think if we are committing ourselves to something like that, that should be knowledge that's making its way back to the board and not coming at the end of a meeting.
Yeah. So the way that I don't know how exactly it all worked out, but David had approached me and Katie to go to the meeting that was held by the NDP, where they invited the counselor to come and sort of talk to them. This has from the start, been an initiative by the NDP club, and so obviously we don't as WUSA want to jump in there and say take it over or say, start. We're trying. How do I put this? We don't want to take it over. Obviously, it's their project. They've been moving forward and they've been making great progress. And so they did reach out and asked us to support it. And so after reviewing it, David came to the belief that based on our current stance around transit, that it is something that WUSA would be in favor of. And so because of that, we signed off on it and we sort of put our public support behind it. And then in addition, as I brought up earlier, we have sent Catherine to the meeting in person tonight to sort of speak in favor of the motion. It was sort of one of those things where obviously recognizing that something good is happening, we don't want to steal all the thunder and say like this is what we're doing, but instead trying to put the pieces in place to ensure that the good thing happens at the end of the day. I hope that sort of answers your question and sort of outlines the weird process that this took and how it's sort of getting here now.
Yeah, that makes sense. I completely understand not wanting to steal their thunder, and also it's like a partition thing because we don't want to be like, okay, we're going to support anything NDP does. I just as like general best practice, I think when we are signing our names on things as an organization, that's information that board should know.
Yes, and so that's where, yeah, I guess probably just now would have been the best time probably, which was, I don't know exactly how much detail I got into in my report, but that would be the time I would have probably have provided that. Are there any other questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any. As part of my report, the final item on there was just sort of I put in a verbal send off. My hope was that I would have a chance to just quickly write something down to say to everyone, but it's been a busy day, and so sadly I don't have anything prepared. But I'll try and make this as extemporaneous as possible. Of just the fact that it's been an amazing opportunity working with all of you, and I know we've got a lot done this year. I know I've sent out in my email the long list of things that have happened throughout this year, that many of which tie back to some of the things that we prioritized at the start, and just to sort of reflect back on the change that did happen throughout this year. You've been an amazing board to those of you who are here today and those of you who aren't as well. It's always been a pleasure to work with you. I hear horror stories from other student associations of sort of the back and forth that exists between their board and their presidents or their officers, and I'm glad to see that it doesn't exist as much here at WUSA. And so that is just sort of my last minute parting thoughts, given that this is my last meeting. And yeah, Yeah, I thank you all. Next on the agenda is Katie's report. He has sort of filled me in for the things there. So if there are any questions, I can see if I can take a shot at it, or we can also sort of reach out to Katie, and then once she's sort of touched down in South Africa, she'll have to break out the extendo satellite to get some connection, and hopefully she can give us an answer. So any questions there? Not seeing any. So then moving on, next is director reports. Hopefully you all have been able to have the chance to fill yours out. Are there any questions for any of the other directors about their director reports? Not seeing any. Next we have executive director report. Are there any questions for Suzanne with regards to her report or any of the other full-time staff that we have on the call here? There are not seeing anything as out. Oh, Jeff, go ahead.
Wait, sorry. Is this the ED report? I was just wondering. Just to confirm, the publications manager is in a full-time role, just on contract right now.
No, it's posted as an ongoing role now.
Like previously, before now.
Or it was, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks. And also, sorry, could the other attachment be shared? I just still don't have access. My bad.
It's okay. I read it through. It looks good, Jeff.
The legal?
Yes.
It's the legal one, yeah.
It's a long survey.
Yeah, we'll get that.
Thorough.
think anyone
I
has
think you're
access.
looking for the word thorough, Alex.
Sorry, Melissa, go ahead again.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I said, I think the word Alex was looking for is thorough.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Very.
There you go, Jeff. You're working.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh, that was all.
Okay, no problem. So not seeing anything then, we will move on along to confidential session.